So I haven't done one of these in a long time, and it may be my last one for quite a while because there's nothing really on the horizon, and this is my look at card battle games, which is a genre that I particularly enjoy, and I guess a lot of people must enjoy it because there are a lot of these games, but a vast majority are digital only, and I very very rarely buy digital. It's almost exclusively physical. Black Book came out just recently from Limited Run Games. So this is a limited run. Mostly this is digital. So I saw this and I decided to go for it. This is probably, of my card battle games, was probably the one I was least excited about. And I just had a feeling that it was not going to be what I wanted. So I'll just compare it real quickly. So we have Monster Train, Slay the Spire, and Sea Horizon. And so what do all these have in common? They're all roguelike, which means that you do a run, you start, and then almost assuredly fail and try again. Actually, Sea Horizon was quite easy to beat pretty much every time. But Slay the Spire and Monster Train are a real challenge. And it's not like you start over completely. You do carry over certain things. So they're all great games, but not exactly what I was looking for. I'm thinking about like the Dungeons, or not Dungeons and Dragons, but the Magic the Gathering. Shadowverse was not a that is one where you're creating a deck, and you can use the same cards. You gather cards over time, get more and more cards, refine your deck. The couple problems with this one. The first one was it was pretty much impossible to create a strong theme deck. There was synergy between cards, but you couldn't create a theme deck. The other problem was I simply could not create a deck myself that was as good as the pre-made decks, which meant that I was constantly having to go back to the pre-made decks when I got to certain opponents, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to just create my own deck, but I just apparently wasn't that good. Or the pre-made decks were so tuned that it was about impossible to create a better one. Inscription was an amazing game, but it's super short. You could finish it in a day or two. It is also a roguelike game. It hits hard, but it is short. And, that is often the case with indie games. Black Book is also an indie game. This has was it 81 Metacritic score. So that's lower than Shadowverse, Slay the Spire, and Monster Train, which are slightly higher. And I have up here some of the reviews from the game, and generally favorable. I love this game. I think this may be my second favorite indie game that I've ever played. Um, it is what I was looking for. Finally, it has a full story. It is if you go through all the side quests and things, which I don't know why you wouldn't. Um, it's probably 30 to 40 hours, and it has replayability. And if you it's not roguelike, but if you want to do roguelike, there's also that option, which is endless battles, which is very much a roguelike game. And so it has pretty much everything. I saw certain reviews where it was complaining about the story, and I thought the story was awesome. It takes place in let's see, Slavic folklore, and I think it takes place in Russia. And so, I assume that's where it was made in Eastern Europe, and there is a super strong Eastern Europe influence on the game. But the game allows you to create a strong themed deck. So, for instance, a blessed deck or a curse deck or a waste deck, and it's irrelevant what those are, but basically you're gathering cards that for one strong purpose. And you can have up to 33 cards in your deck or as little as 13. So if you have only 13 cards, you're guaranteed to get the cards you want. very quickly. And a lot of the stuff I read suggested always going with 13. I tend to go with more, but kind of the beauty of the game, because one of the complaints that I heard, and I think this was the game was adjusted. This game's a little bit older, and then was ported over to the Switch. People were complaining about the puzzle battles, and I thought the puzzle battles were, number one, not that hard. People were like, I just can't get past this. But also, you can bypass just about any battle if you're struggling. And I kind of did that once. I was going against a creature with vampirism, and I could not do enough damage to overcome this creature's ability to increase its hit points, and its hit points could increase exponentially. But I was able to. The first thing I did was kind of literally duplicate what somebody online is. So here's a blessed deck. So I was like, okay, let me see what the cards they're using. Then I knew that there was a curse deck that people could make, and you just look for certain curse cards, and there's way more curse cards than you could put in. So not only do you look at curse cards, but you're kind of like, okay, which are the really good ones? And you experiment, you try it out. And the nice thing is, when you lose to a character, you could do what's called bookbinding, which is go in, retool your deck, and then try again. And you could try as many times as you want. Now, I would say one of the problems maybe in the game is that I was able to very quickly, once I figured out kind of how the game was working, create an overpowered deck that was just stomping everyone. You can pretty easily create a really, really, really strong deck fairly early on. And the one thing I wanted to do was to be able to create my own idea. And so the idea I had was, well, what if I create like a super strong wall of defense and then use that wall offensively? And it worked fantastic. It worked really well. It was right up there with my curse deck and my blessed deck. So I was having a lot of fun. And there are creatures where, and you can have up to three decks. I wish you could have like 10. I don't know why they're limited to 3, but you are limited to 3. A lot of these games like Inscryption, you're limited to 1. So, that's kind of not fun. But you're limited to 3, and if you fight, let's say you fight against an opponent with vampirism, and you say, okay, I need to get rid of that vampirism. So you put a spell in there that will get rid of a positive effect. And so you swap that card in, and now you try again. Or maybe you have a creature that just never. Like I came across a creature. What it would do is it would basically each turn or many turns it would launch an attack that was way stronger than you could possibly ever absorb. And so there was a spell. It was a one-time use spell that would allow you to bypass any damage. And so I just put 4 of those. You're limited to 4 cards of a type. And so I put 4 of them in there. And so I was able to defend myself long enough to kill the creature. So you retool your deck. And then sometimes what I would do is switch from my curse deck to blessed deck to my defensive deck. And at no point did I ever come across a creature where none of the decks worked. There was always something that could, and sometimes one of the decks was completely ineffective against a creature. But I would say this is what I was looking for. This is exactly what I was looking for. If somebody's not that into card battle games, they might play this game and be like, whatever. But this game satisfied the kind of the quest. Inscryption, it is such a good game, but man, I mean, you're just playing it and you're like, I really wish there were more. I really wish there were more to the game. This game feels like a lot of people put in a lot of time on this. Even though it's an indie game, it is not a 2-hour game. You can get 40 hours, and then when you're done with 40 hours, you could sit there and say, you know what? Maybe I'll play through, because the the story has branching paths, or you could be good or you could be evil. You could decide and have a different ending. So you could do that, or you could just sit there and play through the roguelike, which is just do the endless battle. And that's a lot of fun. So I've been playing this a ton, and I plan to continue playing it for a while because it is really, really good. I don't know how easy it is to get now, since for if you want a physical, but if you want digital, I highly recommend it. If you like Magic the Gathering, I would say of all these games, this is by far the closest to it. And for a card battle fan, I don't know what you could complain about because it is really, really fun. Again, and I mean, my only other problem is that some of these cards, it is really hard to figure out what the effects are. Sometimes you need to do some serious research to figure it out. And I do wish the game would kind of ease you into it, would actually do more puzzle battles to teach you how these cards work. But overall, I'm really, really impressed with this game. So I highly recommend Black Book.